Hang on, let me move it away.
Congratulations on the most outrageous acceptance speech where you actually thanked Martin Compton's tongue for going down your throat or whatever it went, man. That's a one-off.
Is it?
Well, I've never heard a speech like that before.
If it's a one-off, then it's committed to history. It's not happening again.
You obviously enjoyed
Did you say this? Did you say that this role in film was the best role you'll ever get?
No. If it is, you know, you look on the work you do, and if you're lucky enough to have stuff that feels that important to you, you quite often, and what I think actors quite often do is, if they're lucky enough to keep getting work, then their worry starts to become, will I ever get anything as good as that again? And I did two in that 1 year. I did Macbeth and I did Bruce, and it's made it quite difficult for me now because I don't know what to do after that. Do you know what I mean? And you know, maybe I need to just deal with the fact that I'll never get anything as interesting as that again. And I don't even mean for the audience, I just mean for myself. So if that's the case, then I have to count myself lucky that I managed to touch them at all.
Do you feel you had to push yourself further than ever before?
Weirdly, no. I mean, you know, in terms of exertion and in terms of effort, it was, yeah, definitely. It took a lot of sweat and stuff, but it was. Bruce came and Macbeth came sort of easier than any other part I've played. Really, Bruce particularly, which was terrifying because Bruce is a demon. He's like a proper son of Satan. You know what I mean? So, but that's of course that's the easy thing to say. The truth about him is that he's not a son of Satan. He's just like any one of us, but he's like any one of us gone horrendously bad. And I loved him. I don't know why, but I found him probably one of the easiest characters I've ever played.
What was it like picking up the BAFTA for this film in your hometown?
A proper relief, because it would be well embarrassing to lose it to an English guy that made a film in Belfast. He's brilliant, by the way. But it would have been proper rubbish to fly all the way back up to Glasgow to lose it to an English guy who made a film in Belfast about English people in prison. So I was well relieved. No, it's you know, it's like I said as well, we made this film I think 3 years ago, and so it's quite a long time after the event that I'm still doing something like this, and so I think this will probably be the last ever event that I ever represent filth. Beyond me showing my son when he's 18 and going, see, your daddy did something, son. So, no, it's a big deal. It is a big deal. Any sort of validation for an actor is welcome, because it's an industry in which you're being judged personally. Your person is being judged. You are bad. I hate that actor. These are the kind of things people say about actors that quite freely. So when you get anything saying, well done, you thought that was good, that's nice, when it comes from your own country and from your own city particularly, it's not from one city, but it's happening in one city. That's really, really nice.
James, you mentioned your wife Andy in the speech. What did she make of the film itself?
I remember the first time I showed her it. She was sitting, it was me, my wee sister and her. We were in New York at the time, and it was a very rough cut of the film that we screened on a 12-inch telly, and I think she was quite upset actually. I think she was upset for the right reasons, not because she was angry with me or anything like that, but yeah, I think she was quite surprised. She knew I was going quite far with it and all that, but she was quite sort of, she was moved by it more than anything, because she knew right at the beginning, even through all the bluster and all the comedy and all the kind of I love myself stuff, she knew that he was horrendously mentally ill, and that's the thing that fuels the whole film, is the fact that the guy's really unwell. You know what I mean? It's a film about mental illness, not told in a grim, depressing way, told with an energy and a kind of verve that isn't common among grim working class movies, and that's something that I think is quite unique, and also present in something like Sunshine on Leith, it has to be said as well, talking about working class people, and yet it's not all working class, weird, grim, worldly, depressing, honest, blah, 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 blah. It's working class people, and we can transcend that and still be entertaining and still be true to your roots, you know.
Did you have any concerns when you were making film? Because obviously...
Nah, not really.
No.
There was only one scene really that I worried about, and after we did it I was fine with it, so it was fine.
What scene was that?
I've talked about it a million times. There was a scene, my second day in the shoot, I think I had to do a scene where we where I forced a 15-year-old, well I don't force, but I blackmailed a 15-year-old girl and give me a blowjob, and that was the one scene that I thought, fuck, I don't know about this. So yeah, that one. But to be honest with you, there's been scenes that I've had bigger arguments about in other movies that are less controversial and possibly salacious as well. So, but that was it. That was the only one I was worried about doing. That sounded like an alarm going off, and then I realised it was the bagpipes. That's a bad review of the bagpipes. Yeah.
Do you differentiate between, I mean, you've made films that have been hugely critically acclaimed, have been works of art, and then you've made films that are more for the box office. Do you differentiate between the two types of films at all?
Yep, one of them pays the mortgage, and the other one feeds your soul, as my agent says. That's quoting Ruth Young, my agent, who always says, this is a soul job. And they're like, aye, they're all soul jobs. But they all hurt your soul if they're not good. Yes and no. I've done a couple of jobs that I've done for the wrong reasons, but that hasn't always been money, by the way. And they generally have come back and bit me hard in the backside.
Which category does Victor Frankenstein fall into?
Oh no, that's one that's for the right reasons. Definitely, that's about an interesting man, interesting character, pushing boundaries and pushing levels of acceptability, and what an audience can take, and that's for the right reasons.
And what's it like working with Daniel Radcliffe as Igor?
He's we got on really well for a start, and we kind of had a commonality in a lot of ways. We're both similarly statured, and we're both similarly physical as well, and it's quite nice it's like when you get a good dance partner, do you know what I mean? Acting wise, it's really, really good because you can spark off each other. But physically, like dance wise, we really sparked off each other as well. So it was a really physical job, which for me was brilliant. One of the things I thought about Frankenstein was that it is about physicality. It's about manipulating flesh, and that has to be present at all times throughout the film. So the fact that we were physical as hell and expressed ourselves physically throughout the whole film. It's like every scene's nearly a fight scene without it being a fight, you know, and that was really good fun. And he was at first he was as up for that as I was, and then he took it even further. And I came into work most days going, oh no, is he going to throw at me today? So no, he was awesome.
Did you go back to the book or any of the previous films at all, or did you still?
It's quite different from the book. It's quite different from the book. I mean, the fact that Daniel's character's even in it is different from the book. Igor isn't present in the book, but he's present in our film, and in fact, he's the central character in our film. It's about the relationship between Igor and Frankenstein. Victor Frankenstein is aptly. So it's very different from the book. It is still holds true to a lot of the central themes of the book. You know, obsession and man trying to replace God, and can man become the creator outside of women, outside of God, and all these controversial and sort of hateful endeavours in a lot of ways, you know. And yet it's about one guy's or two guys struggle to, I don't know, try and put something right in themselves that's missing, you know. And so it's still quite, you know, it still is true to the book, but it is a different story from the book.
How much time did you?
be pleased for you tonight?
Irvin?
Yeah.
Oh, he'll be gutted. He'll be absolutely gutted. Partly because he sent me, I asked him, I said, would you please send me a letter from Bruce that I can read out as acceptance, you know what I mean? And he did, and I couldn't get the file open because we're underground down here. So, not underground, but whatever it is, I couldn't get it opened. And so I couldn't read it out. So he'll be gutted and angry with me because he sat down for half an hour and about half an hour of Irvin writing into that. I think he'll be very happy for me personally though, and for the success of the film. And you know, he's unique. There's nobody like him in the world. He's not just like that guy that writes Scottish. He is that guy who writes like that guy, and there's nobody like him. If he grew up anywhere else in the world, he'd write the same way, and that is what I think is so brilliant about him. He'd have a different accent, but he'd have the exact same voice, because his voice isn't Scottish. It's got a Scottish accent, but it's proper from a different planet, you know.
I think
Just
we'll
to
let
have
James
to
go
land
back to
here.
his seat after this, guys.
Cheers, guys. Thanks very much.